We believe that this case strikes to the heart of our shared values of justice, equality, and freedom. Artur and Dawid Pawlowski seek not only redress for alleged harms, but also reaffirmation of the principles that underpin our society, the principles of justice, fairness, truth, accountability, and respect for the rights of individuals. In closing, we urge you to remember that the fight for justice is not just the responsibility of the few, but the duty of all who believe in the principles of fairness and equality before the law. We will not rest until justice is served and until Dawid and Artur are able to continue their important work without fear of prosecution or harm.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News. I'm on location in Calgary, Alberta at the Calgary Court Centre, where Pastor Artur Pawlowski and Chad Williamson of Williamson Law, his legal counsel on this matter, are set to make an announcement in relation to a statement of claim against a number of parties, including the Government of Alberta, Alberta Health Services, Calgary Police, RCMP, Canada Post, and a number of other individuals named in this legal action seeking remedy, seeking damages for effectively everything he went through. You'll likely recall that Pastor Artur Pawlowski, for preaching against COVID-19 restrictions and for insisting on keeping his church open, endured numerous aggravated arrests and in excess of 2 months behind bars cumulatively, all for just daring to open his church. Finally, this is the cathartic sort of purge, the pushback from Pastor Artur Pawlowski against these authorities who put him through so much, seeking damages for everything that happened. We're going to be speaking with Pastor Artur Pawlowski as well as with Chad Williamson of Williamson Law, his legal counsel. I also want to remind you that while many of the legal proceedings for Pastor Artur Pawlowski are in his past, he still has one that is being appealed, and we are fundraising that appeal at saveartur.com. That is an extension of his preaching at the Coutts blockade. So if you want to support that endeavor, go to saveartur.com.
Look what they're doing to a clergyman.
Nazi.
Okay, look what they're doing to a preacher.
I
do not cooperate with Nazis. This is a priest, you understand that?
For over 2 decades, Artur and Dawid have been unwavering in their commitment to their community. As pastors with their street church, they have tirelessly offered pastoral and ministerial services to Calgarians, including feeding and advocating for Calgary's homeless community. Their selfless dedication to the well-being of others has earned them the respect and admiration of many in our community. The civil claim alleges that despite their service and devotion to the community and also to Calgary's most vulnerable, the Pawlowskis have been targeted and persecuted by the very institutions meant to protect them. And of course, the claim was just recently filed at the Court of King's Bench, and we can make this available to members of the media should they so wish to review it. It is alleged that the defendants in this action have engaged in corruption, malfeasance in public office, abuse of process, false arrest and false imprisonment, malicious procurement and execution of a search warrant, intentional infliction of nervous shock, breaches of privacy, unlawful discrimination, battery and assault, cruel and unusual punishment, breaching the principles of natural and fundamental justice, breaching the principles of procedural fairness, failing to make full and frank disclosure to the court, and violating the plaintiff's charter rights to freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of peaceful assembly, freedom of mobility, rights to life, liberty, and security of the person, violating also, it's alleged that the rights to against unreasonable search and seizure, as well as the rights against arbitrary detention were violated, in addition to violating the plaintiff's rights to counsel. The claim also alleges that the government persecuted the plaintiffs for their religious and political beliefs and practices. The claim also alleges that the defendants entered into a conspiracy against the plaintiffs to harass them, deny them their constitutional rights, cause them physical and mental injuries, and make a public example of them. The plaintiffs collectively are seeking compensatory, aggravated, and or punitive damages against the government, against the defendants, some of which are government organization, in amounts exceeding $3.5 million.
Pastor Artur Pawlowski, you've endured a litany of charges. Effectively, all of them, except for the Coots charge, have been either appealed or overthrown, or effectively no charges. Despite all of that, despite all those victories, a lot of people have continued to malign you, mischaracterize you. How significant is it to you? Part of the statement of claim is the demand for an apology. How important is that part in reclaiming your identity, your role as a pastor?
Well, for example, the leader of our government, the Premier of Alberta, promised before the election that there will be apology, that there will be a recompense to the pastor specifically. She said, Danielle Smith, I'm talking about, that there will be a form of apology and a recompense. That never happened. We have been left to die. What was done to us is unbelievable. I mean, you can tell, and you know, I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. That's exactly what I observed growing up, and this must stop. Those people are not above the law. Those guards, those organizations, health inspectors, police officers, RCMP, they're not above the law. They should not be above the law. And this, in a way, in a small way, what we are trying to bring is justice back to our province. It's time for the justice to come back. What they've done, and of course the courts already ruled that what was done to us was illegal. Where is recompense? Where is apology? Where is anyone saying anything in this country? Yeah, what was done was horrible and evil. We apologize for, taking you through this ringer. No, that's not happening. So I believe that when we uncover everything that we know is to be true, I think people will be shocked by who said what and why those things were done to us. And ultimately, that's a victory for me. Regardless what happens with the finances and this and that, I believe that the victory will be if we will be able to let the public know who did this to you. And I believe Canadians deserve to know who did this to them.
One of the benefits of bringing a civil action in the province of Alberta is ultimately, should this go to trial, it will form part of the public record, and it's tremendously, we think, important to get to the bottom of what has happened in this province over the past couple of years, and we think that that'll happen in this case.
It's not hard to say that the persecution that you endured is historical in Canada. I mean, it might be commonplace in the Soviet bloc behind the Iron Curtain, whatever it is, but it was historical in Canada, and it's just been win after win after win. Literally only, I think, one major thing still before the courts. Everything else has been a victory. How much does it mean for you to finally be going sort of on the offensive and saying, no, you will be held accountable?
Everything. Adam, everything. I have been pounding this on my heart from the very beginning 3 years ago. What are we to do? Because it looks like those people, there are no checks and balances. There's no accountability with those people. They can arrest you and they just throw you out. And it seems like nothing you can do about it. Well, I want to change that. I want those people to be accountable and charged, if needs be, for breaking the law. So this means everything to me. What they did to us, I only saw it behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
I would never, if you would say that to me when we were growing up, when we looked at Canada, that one day a pastor can be arrested for just keeping his church open, that the pastor will be arrested for literally saving lives and feeding the poor, I would say, get out of here. You're crazy. You're really, really crazy. That's what happens in Poland behind the Iron Curtain, in Russia under the boots of the Soviets. It will never happen in a free and democratic society, but it did.
So the statement of claim, which was just recently filed, names the government of Alberta, otherwise known as His Majesty the King in Right of Alberta, Alberta Health Services, the Calgary Police Service, the City of Calgary, the RCMP, Canada Post, and a significant number of unknown individuals and government entities.
And just to confirm, those unknown individuals, those would be potentially police officers, individuals involved, whatever it may be?
That's right. Or essentially just any unknown individuals, but also any presently unknown government entities that may have engaged in the behavior that is alleged to have been conducted in the statement of claim.
So just to confirm, when talking about trouble in the past, you'd be referencing, like, say, on the Rook order, where there was challenges by numerous firms, and it took it should have been weeks. It took months and months and months, and in fact, lots of stuff wasn't revealed at all.
That's right, and not just on the any of the matters that kind of fell under the implications and legal principles stemming from the Rook order, but also on the fight the fines cases when we're dealing with defendants who the Crown has a responsibility to provide them with disclosure. There were disclosure applications in many of those cases. So just in dealing with the government in relation to its handling of COVID stuff, it's been our experience that disclosure hasn't always been forthright. And again, we'll give the government the opportunity to respond as they will when the time is right. But once we are in receipt of disclosure, we'll just be obviously taking a clear and thorough review of the same to ensure that we feel that we're getting what's relevant to material.
Now, I spoke with you immediately upon your release after 54 days behind bars. I saw you go in, and I saw you as soon as you came out. You were physically different. Part of this legal action is seeking damages effectively for everything that you went through. Just on a personal level, are you forever changed? What are you dealing with? Like, is your life different because of everything you went through physically, mentally, all that?
100%. I mean, you cannot come out of what was done to us and my family not changed. I mean, every time I see a police officer, I'm traumatized. I used to think that the man in uniform was the good guy, the man in blue. Now I'm looking at them and saying, okay, trouble is coming. What they're going to cook this time? Am I going to be arrested or ticketed just because they don't like me, or they don't like my politics, or they don't like me being a Christian? I mean, this is always in your head after this experience. And I think that's the real tragedy. Yeah. That those people were supposed to be working on the highest standards in the land, and they have become gangsters in uniform. How can I move on?
Right.
Some people may move on, but I can't. My family can't. We're still under the boots of the Soviets, and there is thousands of us. Don't kid yourself, Adam. This story is not Artur Pawlowski or Dawid Pawlowski. This is not about Pawlowski's family. This is about Albertans. This is about Canadians. If they can do this to me, they can do this to you.
You know, throughout the 20 years, the malicious persecution that's been against Pastor Artur, my brother, me, my family, our family.
He was arrested
it's unprecedented.
11 times.
11 times.
Altogether, 13 arrests. You know, my brother's been arrested 16 times. So it's been a 20-year process. So it's been tough. It's been crazy, unprecedented. What it means to me, it's finally some justice to see these people on a stand.
Sweating a little.
Yeah, sweating a little bit, you know, because that's what they've been doing to us for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, can you imagine? And thank God that we are still here and we're going to persevere. And to see some justice is amazing.
How critical is that for the sort of judicial process moving forward, but particularly for your clients, to have the government, to have these bodies acknowledge that they did wrong?
I mean, that's something that we could potentially discuss through a settlement. I mean, it's not something that you can get a court order for. So I can't ask for a declaration or an order that the defendants apologize for what they've done. Would it be meaningful? Yeah, I mean, I think it would go a long way. At the end of the day, is it something that I expect? Absolutely not. I mean, we'll see. I think that that the government will bristle as they've done in all of these cases, and I think that we're in for a long party here.
Okay. Well, that's Chad Williamson of Williamson Law taking on this massive and potentially lengthy battle on behalf of Pastor Artur Pawlowski, an individual whose story we have been following for so long and will continue to follow, as we mentioned, as he goes on the offensive and claims his battle for justice against this government that has done so much wrong to him. I want to thank Chad Williamson so much for having us for this update, and Pastor Artur Pawlowski as well for joining us briefly. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. Once again, it is wonderful news to hear that Pastor Artur Pawlowski is seeking to hold those who did so much harm to him accountable. But I want to remind you, not all of Pastor Artur's legal proceedings are behind him. There's once again that legal proceeding, the appeal on the charges that he received for preaching at Coutts, that is still before the courts. If you want to help that legal effort, and if you want to help Pastor Artur Pawlowski, you can do so at saveartur.com.